You're still watching Breakfast Daily on City TV. Please feel free to send us a message and let us know where you're watching from, what parts of the country, or maybe even internationally. You're catching some of it on social media. So you can send a WhatsApp message to 0550 or you can hashtag Breakfast Daily on all of our social media platforms and let us know your thoughts on everything that we're discussing. Remember, we love to hear from you. Now, we'll take a trip to Langbinsi. Langbinsi, well, we're looking at sanitation issues there. Now, here in the Greater Accra region, our Greater Accra Regional Minister, Henry Quartey, has spearheaded the Operation Clean Your Frontage campaign, right, to enforce sanitation bylaws. But what's the situation in other parts of the country? And why is there a problem with filth in Langbinsi? Well, let's take a look at this report, then we'll come back and talk more.
Judging the town by its frontage, one is likely to offer praises to the authority for keeping a clean town. But few meters into the neighborhood is a complete scene of mess. This waste dump is just by the Langbinsi market, not too far from the main road. It is a point of discharge for household and market waste. The residents say since January 2021, when the assembly stationed a rubbish container here, there has not been a single effort to dispose the waste. Alhassan Seidu lives by it and tells City News the effect on his household.
Bunma nyonga ka ku disturbing all the time, especially citing me to kutunshi saman noni. Citing me to kutunshi saman noni. So katira sura. To minute kutun karban jiro ne barzan banjiran sali. Batama sa arma puhugma ka martit ka titibarna pam. Ka titibarna pam. So katira ya susi. Bakpam ba manga. Ka ba yinan sungti. Zancente bolo ma malgu jene te tsaro ma pari. Ka ba sunte ka sa arma tu nyang nang paran nang buna ma puni. Ka ba nyang nang chan nang paran bara.
Langbinsi is one of the oldest settlements in the Mamprugo Kingdom. This once cleanest town has fast slumped into flood. These women in Langbinsi town feel the burden of the obvious poor sanitary condition.
So to container ma mun yan zal ta kaduni to yan par sa ala nang check to suhriyane yan nang sugur kanan ka pa hadun ta ka ta den durun par nang na kay nan sugur ka cha mal kan ta te ka ta dajima mun yan ta tiyale to mi tan nang ne shim da arma mi da malla duru zo ma nin canan ta tamna biya ka ken na dun don nan tamna ta la ma da malla duru posa ma to mun yema ngon ko be pa posa ma ko tirtene.
Besides the menace of plastic waste haunting the town, open defecation is also a common practice. The issue of poor sanitation is a concern to the traditional head of this town, as the regent of the community plans to roll out regular cleanup exercises to solve the problem.
There's a need for us to ensure that, we educate the populace very well, and then, organize various community cleaning, programs so that they continuously see how it is important to keep your environment clean. And again, we can decide to put together a community task force to ensure that people are penalized for not doing the right thing when it comes to sanitation. All or both of us have failed in this regard when it comes to sanitation. I think that the assembly has a bigger role and a bigger responsibility. It's just not about bringing a container and expecting the people to dump there. If they dump into the container and you don't pick the container, you have failed. If you bring a container and the objective is to make sure the community is clean and the community is still not clean, you have not finished your work.
When contacted, the municipal chief executive of the East Mamprusi municipality say the problem prevailed because the waste track for the municipality is grounded and would soon be fixed to solve the problem.
All right, so that was a concerning glimpse at the sanitation situation in Langbinsi in the Northeast region. Now we'll talk to our Northeast regional correspondent, Maxwell Sook, and he'll give us a bit more information about what the entire area is like and what, if anything, we've heard from the Assembly regarding this issue of sanitation. Good morning, Maxwell.
Good morning, and good morning to all your listeners.
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us this morning. So we've watched the report that you sent us. Not a nice sight, not a pretty sight at all. Just give us an idea of what the community of Langbinsi is like, and for people who are not familiar with the area, for most of us who would not know where exactly in the Northeast region this is and what the community is like.
So this is I think is one of the biggest towns in the East Mamprusi municipality. It is very close to the capital of the Northeast region, which is in Nalerugu. It's sited on the main highway from when you take off the Bolga Road, that's from Wale to that stretch of the road. It's just it's sited in the middle of the road and with both sides, buildings crossing both sides of the road. So this is just really important town in the kingdom, in the entire Mamprusi land. Is the chief warrior of the area. So if you know maybe history, Langbinsi says the chief of the area becomes the chief warrior of the traditional seat of the kingdom. Now, the buildings, it is one which looks to me not confirmed that it doesn't really have a proper scheme, because if you see how the town is built with problem, rules problem, and a whole lot of issues, it's quite neglected, especially when you get into the neighborhood as portrayed in the report. It is not the dustbin, the wisdom in the closer to the market is not the only one that is battling with these kind of fields. Almost there are a couple of them that are there, and where I visited, the container was only stationed at the market. The others really doesn't have proper ones. They are quite they are worn out, they are broken down, and they need replacement. So generally, the sanitation issue there is in the hands of the people. Many of them can collect them, the big can, and then burn them in front of their homes,
Right.
which is not the best way also
Of disposing, exactly.
Yes.
Now, okay, so I mean, from what you've described, this is not a small town. This is a place that should be receiving the attention that it deserves. I mean, with regard to waste disposal, but where there's this level of filth and unsanitary conditions, there's also disease. I mean, it follows. You spoke about open defecation, and from what we've seen and the extent of the filth, we know that this is a serious health issue as well. Any word from the health directorate about anything they are doing to try to sort out this issue?
So
just trying to get a sense of what the authorities are doing.
Yes, the town itself do not have a government facility, a health facility. The health facility there was put up by the Presbyterian Church. It's a mission hospital. So I don't know the collaboration between the government and that hospital. However, I am told that there's a lot of inadequate facilities at the city to contain some of these problems. This is, I think, even communities around there is not around Langbinsi have similar problems. Last year, I think we carried the story of where people were operated, communities, some few stones throw from that area because of drinking bad contaminated water that led to typhoid, which perforated a lot of kids' intestines. Mm-hmm. So it is not like a very new thing about sanitation in this area. But speaking to some of the residents, they put the blame on the sanitation officials who really doesn't want to do according to them that they are not living up to expectation in terms of, putting pressure on the necessary institutions to do the right thing. So one of in the local language, the person said that the sanitation officer in that town, they followed him several times just to be able to organize some of the downfalls and put them into proper perspective. But they don't know whether he works, he says their concerns to the assembly or not. So, which is one thing. But I come back to the health aspect. If you look at this, I visited the place, the hospital. Nobody could tell me that this is a facility that's begging for help, that's begging for development. There's a lot of things that need to be fixed there. So it tells us also with this level of skills, then the hospital is just overwhelmed, or the clinic is just overwhelmed in handling this, even not maybe it is not able to handle. So the next proper facility is in the capital, which is about an hour and a half away. So whenever there is always something, then they rise there. So maybe it's just first aid treatment at this facility, and then they manage to get to the capital, which is at the BMC in Nalerogo.
I mean, you can imagine what issues will be compounded by the states of filth in the area.
Exactly.
Now, in your report,
What didn't come up clearly is that maybe what I've not explained also is that these women tells us how every day flies jump into their food. From those, especially those who live within these downfills. Flies jump into their food, gives them sickness, and then it is just problematic. It's just a problem for them.
Yeah.
And so they live with this thing, and they find that, yes, it is not conducive, but they don't know what to do. Because they cannot tell anyone to stop dumping there. It is the officials that are supposed to do that, and they are not doing. And individually, they can't. They've tried every means, and nobody's cooperating. So this is where they are, actually.
Well, Maxwell, in your report, there was a portion where you were speaking to the MCE for the area, but unfortunately we were not able to hear what she was saying. What does she have to say about this as the person leading?
So she tried to play politics with it. However, I pointed it to her. She says that the area, especially her region and her district, have won best sanitation in the league table before.
I'm sorry? She said they've won best sanitation.
Yes. And which was a bit laughable. I pointed it to her that if you have won that, maybe that was just for record's sake. But on the ground, this is the situation. Then she says that, okay, their truck, the Zoom Lion truck, the waste truck, is broken down. And they are in talks with the waste management team, and it will be repaired, and the problem will be fixed. So she admitted that there's a problem. And but she also put the blame on the fact that the vehicle the truck is broken down. Until it is fixed, then this is it. This is how the area will continue to look like. But she said anytime soon.
So she essentially does not have a backup plan. If the main truck that's supposed to collect the refuse is broken down, she has no other explanation or no other solution with the assembly members as to how to deal with this refuse? So
I think that this is where the problem comes from. She actually even tried to avoid talking about it. However, it was just obvious that she could not. Then she tried to respond. The problem, as I can see, it's also on the fact that the team, the sanitation committee in that whole town probably need to sit up also. If there is the fact that even if it is true that the truck is broken down, what we see is that it is still over. Many don't even pour on the container, let alone to get it full. So if you don't pour on the container, how will the container get full? It is not a family responsibility to come and say, okay, we are collecting whatever is getting put in there. If the resident is supposed to dump in this the assembly responsibility or the committee responsibility to educate people or to help them to discharge this thing appropriately. This is where the problem comes. But when you come, you
Right.
see that the container is not full, but the rubbish is everywhere. They just get close and they pour and then they discharge and then go. So it spills up even into people facilities. And for me, I think that even if the truck is broken, the committee in charge of or the unit committees or whoever, they need to let people understand that this is the best way of discharging waste.
Yeah.
And then they can now follow up to see how, if it's full, then they can now talk about how to discharge it.
Exactly.
To convey it from the field. But
Right.
there's no that relationship or that from the assembly down to the committee and to the residents. So the people just do whatever they want.
So as you said, it comes back down to the sanitation officials who are just
That is it.
not
That
doing
is
their
it.
job. Not doing their job.
Unfortunately, I came to talk to them, but I didn't find them.
Right. Okay. We'll keep a close eye on this, Maxwell. Thank you for joining us this
Thank
morning
you.
to break down the issue further. Maxwell Suk, our Northeast Regional Correspondent, just giving us a more in-depth explanation as to why what we saw on the screen is happening in the Northeast region, in that district. And from what he was saying, this is not far from the Northeast Regional Capital, Nalarigu. This is Langbinsi, on a major road leading to major parts of the region. Yet the Assembly and the MCE don't seem to have answers for the problem they are facing with filth and the piling up of waste and the lack of sanitation enforcement in their community. Let's hope that this report is seen and heard by those who need to see and hear it, because the myriad problems that could stem from this kind of sanitation breach could be catastrophic. Okay, let's take a quick break. You're still watching Breakfast Daily. Again, you can send us a message 0550-585832 and hashtag Breakfast Daily. We'll be talking about the transportation fare hikes in a little bit, and Kweku David is on the ground out there to talk to some people and see what's happening. If you're someone who went to take transport this morning and maybe you were shocked by the increase in your fare, do let us know. How much did you pay to travel to work or to school this morning? Okay, so before we go to Kweku, I think as we're still talking about the sanitation issue, we can go back to Langbinsi, and this time we're going to talk to the regent of Langbinsi, Anzim Wusa Manga. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on Breakfast Daily.
Good morning,
Good morning.
and thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Now, as a traditional ruler in an area like this, how do you feel when you see your community being represented in this way and you're living with this on a daily basis?
It's a rather unfortunate situation we find ourselves, and I'm least proud about it. I was just installed regent to the place, and as part of the plan, looking at the place and all the situations that were happening, it's not the best for me, and that's why I'm making this clarion call for authorities to come to our aid. My father, who was also installed a chief warrior, just stayed on the stool for just about 2 months. So, and as part of his plans as well, it was one of the things he wanted to do to make sure that that community was kept as clean as possible. But unfortunately, God knew better, and so. In the big shoes, I needed to make sure that I want to make sure that.
Now, obviously, this is the responsibility of the local governance leadership on the ground there. As a traditional ruler, how much sway do you hold? How much influence do you think you can have on this situation, especially since we're told, something as trivial, should I say, as a broken down truck is causing this pile up and the inability to collect the refuse. So in your role as regent, what can you actually do in order for this to be rectified?
Well, one of the things that I'm doing is to educate my people, in fact, my staff chiefs in the area, to understand that, look, we need to change our situation. And so they should send this information around to my people that, look, where we are is not a good thing. sanitation that is very poor is leading to all kinds of diseases in the community, and therefore we need to rise up and try to encourage the communal labor kind of thing. People can come out, one, to join in, so we do communal cleaning, and then two, to encourage them to make sure that, individual homes, frontages, and inside the house, they know how to keep them tidy and know how to dispose of these things. Now, this call that was made is going to get attention to Langbinsi and to wake authorities up so that they can be up and doing. Now, like I was explaining some time back, the container that has been put there, you as a sanitation officer or a company, your work doesn't end by just dumping the container there. I think that it is important that you ensure that the reason you put it there has been, met. That, okay, you put a container and therefore people are putting their garbage there. And when they put it in a full, you need to be able to come and dispose it off. But if you just put a container and you pay attention to how the environment is kept, then you are not doing the work that is expected of you. Right. Because in any case, your container coming there is to solve a certain sanitation problem. So if you do a research and find out that, look, this container was placed has still not solved the problem. What is the problem? And if you go around speak to some of the ladies, you or the people around the place, or those who use the container, they tell you so high that you cannot go up there. So if the sanitation officer or authority was going back there to find out reasons why people are not dumping in there, you could have found out that it's just a fair way that they needed so they can find and put up there. So these are some of the issues, and we're just having a certain agenda. We're hoping that as time goes on, we can reach somewhere with your help as well.
Definitely. And it sounds like you are focusing on attitudinal change and just trying to educate the citizenry for their parts while waiting for leadership, governments to do their part, which they're mandated to do. Is their responsibility to make sure the place is clean. So in the interactions you've had with them so far, that's the MCE or the assembly, are you optimistic that there could be a fruitful resolution to this in the near future?
Well, yes, because we're currently discussing a community-wide cleanup campaign where we can make it a very regular one. And I'm hoping that, from then they can see that, look, sanitation is top of on my agenda, and therefore they have to pay people. So we're hoping that, after a few cleanup campaigns, we'll rise and continue to support the community. So we can keep Langbinsi clean. It's like an entry point in the Northeast region. And I don't think that, we want to send such a signal to tourists and other business people to come and see the community looking that way.
Exactly. Not a good look. Not a good look for Langbinsi at all. But we commend you for your efforts, and we certainly hope that the attention you are bringing to this will meet the ears and eyes of those who are responsible for taking up the task. Thank you so much for joining us again.
We're grateful for the opportunity, and we're hoping that next year when you're doing the Heritage Caravan, you will see the places you would stop by, and then by then our story would be great. Thank you so much for having us.
Well, you're a great tourism ambassador for your community. We hope that, yes, the heritage buses will be able to pass through there, and hopefully by that time it'll be pristine. All right. Thank you so much again. Anzim Musa Manga is the regent of Langbinsi, and he's just been giving us some information about what he's doing as regent and some of the progress he's making to try to rectify this situation of filth and poor sanitation in Langbinsi. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, it's all about transport fare hikes. What's happening with you and your commute? Are you paying more to travel this morning? And we'll take some messages as well from those of you watching now. 0550-585832. If you've got some messages you want to send us, please do let us know. We want to know what your commute is like, what you're paying now as compared to yesterday or previously, and what your thoughts are on the transport situation and the cost of transportation. We'll be right back.